Hello my sweet friends, and welcome to DIY with Nadia, where we love making wreaths. With me today is Mr. Simba, who is just sitting here purring and wearing a patriotic little top that I don't think he noticed that I put on him yet. And in today's video, we are doing some red, white, and blue patriotic wreaths. To be exact, we are doing the top 10 patriotic wreaths. With that being said, let's get started. Let's go over the supplies for this wreath. I am going to be using pipe cleaners. You're going to need 18 for the wreath form, and depending on your sign, you're going to need 2 to 4. The sign that I'm using is this beautiful USA one. Deco mesh. We have the blue with the red stripes, red with the blue stripes, 10 yards each. And then you're going to need half a roll of another 10 yards. We're going to make little curls with this one. Then I'm going to use some of these styrofoam scatters, or you can use the vase fillers. They're the little tiny spheres. The wreath form is 14-inch metal wreath form. I am going to use a placemat for the back, 15 inches in diameter, and I'm going to attach it with 3 zip ties. Then you're going to need some kind of a clamp, clothespin, whatever you have on hand. I get these at the Dollar Tree. The big ones come 2 in a set. Some wire cutters, of course a rotary cutter or a heating tool. Then a few pieces of some scrap felt that I cut into little rectangles. I'm going to use these to attach pipe cleaners to our sign so we can attach it to the wreath. I'm going to be using the 18 pipe cleaner method to attach to my wreath form, so we're going to do this one section at a time. So if you are new to wreath making, no big deal, you can definitely do this. The 14-inch wreath form has 6 sections. In each section, we're going to put 3 pipe cleaners. First pipe cleaner is going to get attached on row 1 and 2, right there in the center. I'm going to bring it together, a nice twist or 2, and then I'm going to face the pipe cleaner towards the inside. This next one is going to go to the side of the center one, and I'm just going to fold it in half, 2 twists, and we're going to fold it down to the outside. And the third one is going to go on the opposite side of the center one. Same thing, we're going to fold it in half, 2 twists, and fold it out. I'm going to repeat the same process going all the way around. This is what your wreath form should look like at this point. 6 pipe cleaners on the inside, 12 on the outside. For a ruffle wreath, I usually cut my deco mesh into 30-inch strips, and because both of our rolls are 10 yards in length, that usually gives me 12 strips per roll. I decided to cut my deco mesh into 40-inch strips. That way I get 9 out of this one, 9 out of this one, which makes it 18, like we had the 18 pipe cleaners. And the extra 10 inches that I'm going to add to our ruffles is just going to make the wreath fuller. Now let's talk about the options with our white deco mesh. My white deco mesh does have the little stripes, just like this one does. It's 10 yards in length, and if you make curls with this one, cutting them at 10 inches in length, you're going to have enough to make 36 curls, which means you could put 2 curls per pipe cleaner. I thought that would be just a little too much because I do want some white in it, but I don't want the white to overwhelm the prettiness of this deco mesh. So I decided to use half of this roll and just do 18 pieces. That way we have a nice balance, a little bit of white popping out, the red, the blue. I mean, what's the worst that can happen? If I feel like it's not enough, I cut the rest of it up. No big deal. My cutting mat is 24 inches in length, plus it has a ½ inch on the side. So what you're going to need is 16 more inches, and I'm just going to start here at the beginning, mark with a pencil where my line ends, and then we're ready to cut. I've always been so conservative with my deco mesh. I don't think I've ever done 40-inch strips, but what are you going to do when you have a little piece left over that's this specific? You're going to end up pitching it anyway. So the way I look at it, use it up, make that wreath fuller. And as you see, I'm just rolling it up and I'm going to put it to the side. And now the same thing with the red deco mesh. This wreath is going to be so full, so beautiful because of this edging. I cannot wait to see how it turns out. Same thing, 40-inch strips, and you should get 9 at 40 inches, or if you're cutting at 30 inches, you're going to get 12. Getting ready to cut my white Deco mesh, and this one I'm going to do 10-inch strips, and I'm going to need 18 of them. I wanted to quickly show you how I store my Deco mesh since I did cut 3 rolls, or 2.5 really. All my red and blue is right here and they're curled up, but the ones that are short, the 10-inch ones, I literally just cut them and throw them in because I do not want to touch the edges if I can help it. The more you touch the edges, the more you fray the Deco mesh. Since we have 2 different colors for our ruffles, I'm going to attach them every other pipe cleaner, on the inside and also on the outside. Now it's time to grab our clamp. Then I'm going to grab our beautiful white piece of Deco mesh, and I'm going to just curl it. We're going to make a little curl, and I try to make sure that the center of our curl is about 1 inch, just like that. Now I'm going to clamp it, grab one of my ruffles, find the center, and if you have Deco mesh that you can tell where the center is, it's really easy. If you do not, then use your board. Centering my Deco mesh on my board, I'm going to focus on my little square, and I'm just going to go down the square. I'm going to make a little fold at the end and bring it back. I forgot to mention that in the beginning, I always do a little fold. Let's open up my first pipe cleaner. Put that in, and then grab my curl, put that in the center. A few twists in the middle. As far as the pipe cleaners, we're going to leave them alone for now and move on to our next ruffle. First things first, let's make our curl. Now let's grab our red Deco mesh. I'm going to start by folding right at the edge. Let's center it on our cutting board and just start bringing it in. When you get to the end, same thing, we're going to fold at the end and bring it in. This is a big ruffle, so do make sure you are centered, and if you're off a little bit, that's okay. Just go on the sides and just make sure you're okay. I seem to be actually okay. And then we're going to take our little curl, work it in between the actual folds. We're going to put that on the next pipe cleaner. Because the ruffles are so poofy, I use 2 fingers and bring the ruffles down so it's not as poofy, because we have a lot of ruffles. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited about this wreath. This is going to be so much fun. What do you guys think? This is only the inside row. This is 6 bundles. We still have all the sides to do, and now you can see why it's so important to put those pipe cleaners to the outside. It's easy to grab them, to find them, and to attach. Let's go and make more ruffles. Same thing with these pipe cleaners. I'm going to leave them on for now and continue making our ruffles still every other color. Oh my goodness, besides being super pretty, it is so floofy. It's not even fluffy at this point. It is so beautiful, and it measures at about 6.5 inches in height. This thing is unbelievable. At this point, we are going to work on the sign and attach it. To attach our sign to the wreath, I'm going to be using 4 pipe cleaners and 4 of those felt scrap pieces that I cut into rectangles. First things first, I'm going to remove the jute cord, but I'm going to save it because I'm going to use it to hang the wreath. Centering my sign, I'm going to look to this square right here, and I'm going to draw a circle, just like that. And that is where I'm going to attach my pipe cleaners. Grabbing my pipe cleaners, folding them in half, and then I'm going to make a little flat surface. I do understand that there's a lot of ways that people attach their signs to the wreath. I'm just very picky when it comes to that, because this method has never failed me. So a little bit of hot glue, put my pipe cleaner on, more hot glue in the center, and then I'm going to put some hot glue going one way, some hot glue going the other way. When I put my little felt piece on, it literally is going to melt into my sign, and then it's going to get attached on both sides, keeping my pipe cleaner in place pretty much permanently. Our pipe cleaners are all on, and now I'm going to bring my wreath out. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab all my little white curls because we don't have a lot of them comparing to our base ruffle. So I'm just going to just wiggle them towards the outside before I bring the sign in. Now the sign, I just like to fold everything down and then flip. We're going to leave some of the curls here because you need the sign to lay against something. Otherwise, it's going to fall really deep inside the wreath, especially this one is so high. And I'm just going to start making my way to the sides and attaching our sign. When attaching the sign, I'm only going to do one twist. When I'm sure the sign is in the right place, I'm going to come back and secure all the pipe cleaners in place. Flipping my wreath over, then making sure where my top is, I'm going to grab it with one hand. It's right here. Remember that jute cord we removed from the sign? I'm going to attach it on this crossbar right here on row 3. And then I'm going to grab my loop from the front and push it out. Because when we have our cover on here, you need to be able to find your loop. Speaking of that, let's put our placemat in place. 3 zip ties, I visually draw a triangle, and that is how I attach. If you're wondering why I only do 3, that's because if you ever need to go back and check on something, you can still get in. When you have 3, you can still get in, but when you send it to a client, your wreath is beautifully covered. Nothing is shown in the back. Tighten my zip tie, cut it off. And then the little nub I'm going to send forward so it does not scratch someone's wall. Same thing, triangle. And the 3rd zip tie. At this point, everything is taken care of in the back. We are going to flip to the front. I'm going to look for my pipe cleaners, continue twisting, and I'm going to attach the little star to my pipe cleaner. For these stars, because they come in a pack with reds and blues, what I like to do if too much of the actual blue or red glitter is on there is grab a little paintbrush and you just brush that off. And all you're left with is this iridescent, beautiful white. Grabbing a star with the glitter that's on there. Right there, you could tell. And here's one without that I just brushed. There is a big difference, but you don't have to. For this next part, I like to use leftover stems. The reason is because the thickness is perfect with the pipe cleaner that I'm using. Grabbing my star, making a little hole, putting hot glue straight in, and put it right on top of the pipe cleaner. And then we're going to bend it to the side. And now we have a little star. I only have 2 of the bigger ones, so I'm using stars from 2 packs of the stars. So I'm just going to put one on the other side right here and then scatter the little ones throughout. Any unwelcome fraying, we're just going to snip. No need to pull or anything like that. Start looking through, deciding where you want the little stars. And now I'm just going to continue doing the same thing and just grabbing these stars and attaching them throughout the wreath. I'm so excited to do another tablecloth wreath. Today I'm using this star wreath form from the Dollar Tree. And then I grabbed some of these plastic table covers. Make sure you grab the rectangular one, not the oval or the circle. And this one is 54 by 108 inches. Or 1.37 by 2.74 meters. I took one of each color, red, white, and blue. The first thing I'm going to do is just remove the tablecloth from the little plastic container. And the most important thing is do not unfold it. Leave it as it is. And what we're going to do first is cut the tablecloth in half. After I cut my tablecloth in half, I'm going to cut each half in half lengthwise. Now I'm going to take these two side ones and I'm going to just find my center. And then I'm going to cut them in half. Now you should have 6 stacks of strips that are about 1.5 inch to 2 inches in width. Next, we're going to grab each one of our stacks, fold them in half, and cut them one more time, just like that. Now that our little strips are all done, they should be about, as I said, 1.5 inches in width and 6 to 6.5 inches in length. Next, I'm going to take a little section at a time, and then just about 3 inches in, I'm going to start making these kind of petal looking or leaf looking endings right here from both sides, kind of just swing in. The coolest part about this is they don't have to be perfect. They don't have to be even, just as long as they have little points right here. And then the next thing you have to watch out is when this tablecloth is folded, it is folded on the endings right here. In some places you will find your tablecloth not going all the way through because it was a little bit bent right here or something. All you have to do is just grab your scissors and cut on an angle to take care of that little corner, and that's it. It's not going to be noticeable at the end of the day, and you just move on and do the other side. I have all my little petals cut up, and I'm just going to start with the red, and I'm going to do 2 of each. So 2 of red, 2 of white, 2 of blue, and just repeat that over and over again. I also like to start from the inner row, just because as you're working out, it's easier to work on this one at the end. And I also like to put it on something so it's easy to get underneath here. And just like that, I'm going to tie just a little tie right here, right in the center. Don't pull too hard, because if you pull too hard, it'll stretch. So just grab another one. You should have plenty. In the beginning, there's just not a lot. It's going to look open. And just remember that all of this is going to come up, and you're going to see all that beautiful petal endings. And I also keep it nice and tight as I'm making it, especially this wreath form is kind of open. So I do make sure just to keep it nice and tight. Right there in the back, there's going to be plenty of these. And I'm just going to continue going all the way around the first row. In case you're wondering if one tie is enough, it really is. I've made a lot of these wreaths, and you really don't have to double tie. Especially, you're going to make them nice and tight next to each other. They're really not going to be moving except for the little petals in the air. So this is going to be nice and secure. And just keep on going until you can't put any more petals on that row. Here is the first row all done. It is nice and full, and I wanted to show you something. When you're doing this, keep on pulling it to the side so you can fit more and more in, just to make sure that you have it nice and full. And I'm telling you, you're going to have plenty of it left. And look how full. This is just row 1. We still have this middle row to go and the outer row. But this is all done. Now, one more thing. When you're all done with this, don't throw away your little leaves. These are from previous projects. And I just have them sorted kind of by color. And then at the end, if we want, we can do some kind of a fun wreath with all kinds of different colors. So just kind of collect them just as they are. Just keep them somewhere safe. And then we can do something eclectic and something fun with different colors. For For the outside layer, I just put my wreath upside down and just went along all the sides. And now all I'm going to do is just kind of turn all of those out, just turning them out to the front. And then we're going to see the big, beautiful wreath that we got. And now anything that's left in between the rows here, I try to send back so it all goes to the front. There we go, like these little strays right here. Just make sure they're going to the front. And here we go. Here is our beautiful, fluffy star wreath, and I absolutely love going like this. I love fluffing it out. It feels so fun. Look at the beautiful colors. And now we are going to decorate. As far as the decoration, because this is so busy, I decided to go as simple as I can. I got these at Hobby Lobby at 90% off. The first thing I got were these stars, and I took the white one off because when I have a busy wreath like this, I try to brighten it up with something white. And look how it stands out. It's nice and simple, it's white. Next, I got this headband at the Dollar Tree, and I absolutely love this mesh tube. It has silver, blue, and red little ribbon going throughout. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to undo it right here at the top, and where it has the little squeeze right there, I'm going to use that as my center guide. And then I'm also going to use this one. Why not? We already have it on hand. The red ribbon that it came with, I'm just going to use it to help us out here. I'm going to tie it right in the center where two of these are. As you're looking at your tubing, what you want to do is grab where you want your little loop to go, and then you're going to twist it. When you twist it, that's when it's going to fall the way you need it to fall, and just hold that in place. We're going to do the same thing here. We're going to loop it, and then we're going to twist that. And when you twist it, that's where it's going to go this way really nicely. And right now I'm just going to take this red ribbon, tie it, double knot it so it doesn't go anywhere. Let's see what it looks like on our star. I want it a little smaller, so let's pull it back just a little bit here. Okay, I like that. I'm going to grab it and tie it one more time, but we're gonna go really tight this time. And now where you want your tail to end, that's where you want to tie a little knot. And I don't want these to be too long. I'm just going to tie a knot right there. As you're doing it, you want to kind of, there you go, that's pretty good. Make sure you do it at the same length on the other side. And I'm holding them together and just kind of moving this knot to match this one. And just cut about 1/2 inch or 1/4 inch underneath the little tie. We have a sweet little bow. For the center of the bow, you can leave it as is. You can use a little button, but because it kind of has sparkles here and there, I am going to grab a medium size vase filler, and this one's just the regular white one. I'm going to cut it about 1/3 from the bottom here, so it holds its kind of, you know, globe kind of look. I'm going to hot glue it right in the center. So first things first, let's hot glue our bow right to the star where we want it, and then a big dollop of hot glue on our little vase filler. We're going to put that right on top, and I'm just going to hold it in place until it cools. Look at this, how adorable is this little star. Now I'm just going to flip it over, put some hot glue right in the center, and this time I'm just going to use one pipe cleaner. I have this one, it's fairly strong, it's big, and it'll hold really nicely to the sides there. I'm going to put more hot glue on top, and then I'm just going to seal it in place with a little fabric. It's like a felt fabric right here. I'm just going to seal it in. It's going to go nowhere. Let that dry. Now I'm just centering it on the wreath, flipping it over, and tying it in place. Try to squeeze it in. This is how tight I have it, that I can't even squeeze this in, because you want a lot of that to be left. And by the way, I used up all my tablecloth and even had a few petals left over. So the 3 packs for a star wreath form from the Dollar Tree is more than enough. And now I'm just going to wrap it around. If yours will reach right here, that's even better. but just tie it around where you got a little spot and it should hold nicely. Just make sure you use a pipe cleaner that's nice and strong. One more thing, a few of you asked about the weather and leaving this outside. It all depends on the decor that you have. This plastic will stay outside. It will be fine in the rain and everything. It might fade a little bit in the sun, so keep that in mind. This is outside friendly. Let's go over the supplies. I'm going to be using this beautiful sign from the Dollar Tree, this 10-inch Deco mesh by 10 yards. And we're going to use the whole thing up. It does have the little stripes on the side. I love these. For the base of this wreath, I'm going to be using a 21-inch Deco mesh that's by 10 yards. For the ribbon, I'm going to be using this beautiful blue mesh ribbon. Then some red, the Star Patriotic ribbon. I'm also going to be using these beautiful red, white, and blue berries. Got these at Hobby Lobby. For pipe cleaners, you're going to need 18 for the wreath and then 4 for the sign. The wreath form I'm using is a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. For this wreath, I'm going to be using the 18 pipe cleaner method, and since this wreath form has 6 sections, each section is going to get 3 pipe cleaners. If you've never done this, this is super easy. On rows 1 and 2, I'm putting 1 pipe cleaner, 2 twists, and then I'm going to face the pipe cleaner towards the inside of the wreath. Then on rows 3 and 4, I count from inside out. I'm going to put a pipe cleaner on one side of our center one, face it out, and then another one on the opposite side of our center one. Same thing, bring it together, 2 twists, and we're going to face the tails out. Continue doing this, going all the way around. When you're done attaching all your pipe cleaners, your wreath form should look something like this. 6 pipe cleaners on the inside, 12 on the outside. Now we're ready to attach our beautiful deco mesh to make the wreath base. I'm going to start by attaching my deco mesh to one of the pipe cleaners on the inside row. I'm going to make 10-inch loops going all the way around until I come back where I started. Then I'm going to go flat from the inside pipe cleaner to the outside pipe cleaner that is the closest to the one where I finished, and I'm going to start making loops once more. You can either do 10-inch loops or 9-inch loops. 9-inch loops are just fine because the difference between our pipe cleaners on the outside row and the difference on the inside row is quite significant, as you see. So 9-inch loops are just fine. The first thing I'm going to do is gather the edge of this deco mesh, and you want to go in about 2.5 to 3 inches maximum. You're definitely going to have a little wave going on. Not a big deal. We're just going to pull these out and grab a little closer. Now that I have my tail gathered, as you can see, my deco mesh is being rolled onto the table so that my loops are already forming as we're putting them on. Going to attach to my first pipe cleaner, twist or 2, and then I'm going to do something that's optional, but for me it's mandatory because I always just love that security of putting a zip tie on the tail. And I'm going to do this in the beginning as I'm doing now, and at the end, once we are done attaching the deco mesh, I'm going off about 1 inch from the pipe cleaner to the side. What that's going to do is it's going to straighten out our tail and just keep everything nice and neat. Cut off the excess, and now I'm ready to make my 10-inch loops. My 10 inches is this light square right here. So I'm going to grab my deco mesh and I'm going to keep it tight. If you don't keep it tight, you're really not going to have 10 inches. You might have a little more. So if you're trying to do 2 wreaths with this one roll, you may be off on your numbers if you keep it loose. So I keep it tight from one end to the other, and then I just attach it to the next pipe cleaner. my next 10 inches just the same and attach it to the next pipe cleaner. 2 tight twists. I am on my last loop and I'm going to attach it right on top of where I started my inner circle. And when I do that, I'm going to go flat. What I mean go flat means that I'm just going to keep this as tight as possible, then go to my next pipe cleaner and twist. I've started doing something else to make sure that this does not move as extra security. I'm going to attach it on row 3, right where this is going down. And I know that this Deco mesh is going to be secured, it's going to be in place, and my Deco mesh is not going to be moving even if it wanted to because of this zip tie. Now I'm going to continue making 9-inch loops for the outside row. You can also do 10 if that's what you wish. And I'm going to go all the way around. We are almost done with the base of this wreath. I'm measuring my last 9 inches and I'm going to cut off the excess. Then I'm going to put the tail right over where we started. 2 nice twists. I'm zip tying this tail in place on row 3. The next thing you want to do is open up all the poofs. Grab the whole poof, find the beginning, one of the ends. Depends if you're left-handed or right-handed, which way you're going. And you just hold it and stretch it out until you open it up. That's it. Next, I'm going to be cutting my beautiful white 10-inch Deco mesh. And I'm going to be cutting 10-inch strips and 36 pieces. This is basically going to be the entire roll and we're going to make little curls out of these. I brought the wreath back in because I wanted to explain why I'm going to be using the berries only on the outside pipe cleaners, and that's because our sign is going to go right here, our bow is going to be right here. So basically this inside row is going to be covered, plus we're going to have the curls everywhere, so this is going to get filled up. Therefore the berries are going to be our beautiful outside accent. I'm going to be cutting the berries at approximately 12 inches. And the reason I say that is because I like to go in between the berries to cut them, just like that. Then the next one, starting here, ending right there. So as I said, approximately 12 inches in length. And I'm going to be cutting 12 of these. Everything is set and we can now attach the curls and the berries to the wreath form. I'm going to start by attaching 2 curls to each set of pipe cleaners on the inside row, and then on the outside row we're going to do 2 curls and also the berries. After I curl it up, I like to have about 1 inch in diameter while laying flat. I'm going to clip that, then I'm going to curl the next one. I'm going to do a little bit of a crisscross and then I'm going to attach it to our pipe cleaner. 2 twists. I know that I'm not going to be adding anything more to this pipe cleaner, so I'm just going to twist it up a little bit. And about 1 inch from the connection, I'm going to clip off the excess pipe cleaners, fold in half, and fold back. Our curls are on the inside row. Now I'm going to move on to do the outside row. Let's make curl number 1, curl number 2. Going to crisscross these, and then we're going to grab a piece of a berry, twist it in place, and I'm going to continue twisting for about 1 inch and then twist in half and back. As far as the berries, I'm going to kind of just stick them out because I want them sticking out at the edges of this wreath. And off I go, doing the same thing, going all the way around. All our curls are on and the berries, they are going to be so pretty when this wreath is done. To attach the sign, I'm going to use 4 corners of the sign and then grabbing 4 pipe cleaners, I'm going to fold them in half and make a little seat at the bottom, just like that. I usually cut these about 1 inch by 2 inches. A few of you asked where I get my white hot glue. You can get it at any craft store. Then grabbing my felt piece, I'm going to put over that, and it's just going to seal that pipe cleaner in place. I love doing this because I know my pipe cleaners are secure. We are ready to make our beautiful bow. I'm going to be using a bow maker. If you don't have one of these or are looking for one of these, I always have a link in my description box and also in my Amazon store. Besides the ribbon I showed you in the beginning, I also decided to add some white. I'm going to be making 6-inch loops. Therefore, my tails are going to be at 8 inches. I like to make my tail tails about 1.5 to 2 inches longer than my actual loops, just because I do like to do dovetails, and that kind of takes it away from the length. Measuring my 8 inches, going to put it right in here. And then since I have a double-sided ribbon, I'm just going to be making 6-inch loops. There's my first 6 inch. Then I'm going to go to this side at 6 inches. And then you can either measure off 8 inches or just measure by the tail you already have, which is what I'm going to do, and then give it a little cut. What I also like to do is I'll put this tail on this side. The reason I put one tail on one side and the other one on the other side is because I want things balanced out after all the ribbon is already on here. So now I'm going to take my white ribbon, measure off 8 inches, and this one's going to go up. Same thing, this is a double-sided ribbon, so we are just going to go 6 inches, make a loop, 6 inches on this side, and we can bring it down. I'm going to measure against this tail because we're keeping them all at 8 inches in length. Now I'm going to be using the beautiful blue ribbon, measuring off 8 inches or so, putting it down, and of course this is double-sided, so we are just making 6-inch loops, which means they're 12 inches all together. My 6 inches on this side, 6 inches on the other side. The tail's going to go on the other side. Let's cut this off. And now we're adding our gorgeous star ribbon. Same thing, let's measure off our 8 inches. This ribbon is one-sided, so every time I make a loop, I'm going to twist. Just like that, measuring off my 6 inches. Every time I come to this middle part, I'm going to twist, measuring 6 inches. And if you're going to make another loop, you twist again and cut it off right here. I'm going to put my bow to the side and grab my berries. Same thing, measuring them at about 12 inches. And I think I'm going to do 3 of these. I decided to incorporate them in between layers. I'm going to have one on top, of course. And then these other 2 I'm going to incorporate between the other ribbon. That way they can be sticking out everywhere as we're putting all of this together. Grabbing a zip tie or a pipe cleaner or a floral wire, whatever you like to use. We are going to bring this all together. I just trust a zip tie more than anything. This is just a 4-inch zip tie. It's a small one. So after I hear a few clicks, I'm going to move this part to the back, cut off the tail, and now I'm grabbing a pipe cleaner, a few twists in the back, and we're ready to attach to our wreath. As I'm trying to add my bow here and there, I decided to actually move my sign up a little bit so I can put my bow on a corner right here, kind of in the kitty corner from this side. And that is why we don't attach too much in the back, is because while you're making the wreath, things can happen. You can change your mind, and this just makes it easier until you have that final picture of the wreath. I'm going to completely move this up. So that means, yes, I'm going to be moving some of these curls out. Oh, this is going to be pretty. And then this bow is going to go right here. The sign is all attached, and now we can attach the bow. I'm going to go in the corner. That looks good to me. Going to go back to the top, grab a jute cord, make a few ties, and that way we can hang this wreath. Also, if you want to cover the back of this wreath, this is a good time to do it before you start making everything pretty in the front. I like where the sign is, so I'm securing the sign pipe cleaners in place. I should have done this before I attached the bow to our wreath, but I'm going to make dovetails next. And as you can see, I'm just folding the tails in half and cutting a little corner. Now comes my favorite part, and that's just start opening everything up. The tails, I'm going to move them towards the back, and all the loops towards the top. These loops are quite large, so they're easy to play with. The loops that are in the back, you want to bring them up, and what I do is I put one hand in one, the other hand in the other, twist them, and by doing that, I'm bringing them up. Just like that, our wreath is done. Look at this beautiful bow. I just kept on fussing with it until I liked it. And as you can see, the sign stands out really nicely. And that is because I took the brightest color in the sign, in this case, it's white, and brought it to the wreath. I made the curls, I even put a little bit more white in the bow, but it's not always white. Sometimes it's ivory, sometimes it's yellow. It depends on the sign, of course. But in this instance, we have white outlining the wording. We have white in the United States map. So white was the right decision to bring the sign out. And as you can tell, we have white all around, even though we have blue peeking in everywhere from our base. Overall, I think this wreath is nicely balanced with some red, white, and blue. For today's wreath or swag or even table centerpiece, we are going to use a 5-gallon stir stick that I got at my local hardware store. These are not expensive. And then I'm going to use half a roll of 10-inch Deco mesh. This Deco mesh was originally 10 yards. We're only going to need 5 yards. So whatever roll you use, make sure it's at least 5 yards. Do the math. And always look at the length here, because here it'll say in feet, sometimes it'll say in yards, and they do this so it kind of makes it look like there's more than in here, because this one's 10 yards, this one's 18 feet. And sometimes we just look at the number and not the little letters. So keep that in mind when measuring your Deco mesh. As I said, this Deco mesh was originally 10 yards. 10 yards is 360 inches. Divide that by 2, that makes it 180 inches, and that is what you will need. Then we'll take that 180 inches divided by 8, because that is how many strips we will need to cut, and that'll make it 22.5 inches per strip. Let's prepare our yardstick. I have 8 pipe cleaners here, and I'm just going to put them to the side right now. If you're not going to use this on a flat surface like a coffee table, you might want to think of how to hang it. Now, some people drill a hole right here. I'm trying to do this where I don't have to drill anything or use any power tools. And the way I do it with this is with this little groove. I think this is so good to use this, because when you use yardstick, first of all, yardsticks are a lot longer, and second of all, they don't have this little groove. So what I'm going to do is grab some 22 gauge wire. This one is from Michaels, and I'm going to get a big piece. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wrap it around the skinniest part here. I'm going to wrap it, give it one twist. Then I'm going to wrap it on the other side so it's nice and tight here. Give it another twist. And look at this. It's fairly tight, and it's not going to, I'm pulling really hard right now. Okay, now we're going to make our loop. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of loop it and twist it right here. But I'm going to leave about 2 inches right here. So I'm going to do twists that are close to our connection right here. There you go. You have a big, nice loop. In case you want to hang it on a door hanger, you can definitely use this, but I'm going to give it just another twist. And then this part right here, I'm going to bring it up. I'm just looping it down. I'm putting it in between our floral wire here. And even if I had something really heavy, I would have been fine. Let me do it one more time. Pull it through to the bottom. And now I know it doesn't matter what I do. This is going to be really secure. Whatever's left, I'm just going to wrap it around this part right here. And that's it. You have a nice loop. You don't have to use any power tools. I really like this. And look at this. I'm going to pull, you guys. I'm pulling really hard. It's going nowhere. And obviously your swag is not going to be that heavy that you would have to pull that hard. So it does hold in this little groove. We're going to have 5 sections. So what I like to do is find my center. On this yardstick, the center is 10.5 inches. So that is where I'm going to start with my pipe cleaner right here. And I'm going to just find my center and move it to the side here. We're going to do 2 in the center. So one gets tied on this side. I'm going to grab another one and tie it on the other side. Then I'm just going to go towards one side about 3 inches in, 2 to 3. Same thing, we're going to do one on this corner and then one on that corner. And I'm basically going right below our little loop, and that is why I did the loop first, to get that out of our way. And then here is the other side. And the 2 that are left, I'm going to center them. And I'm going to face these up. So there are 8. We have 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Now I'm grabbing my hot glue gun, and I like to hot glue these to my stir stick. The stir stick is pretty much raw wood, so the hot glue sticks really nicely to it. And here I'm actually gonna catch some of my wire that I used to make the loop. And as you can see, I really go heavy with the hot glue on the sides. The ones in the middle, I'm not too worried about, but the sides, I really go heavy. Next, I'm going to grab my Deco mesh and I'm going to cut it into 22-inch strips. You could cut it into 22.5 if you know you have the full half roll. I'm just not sure with this one. So I'm going to keep it to 22 inches. I got 8 strips of Deco mesh ready to go. And for this, you can either do ruffles or cruffles. Because my Deco mesh is on the thinner side, I decided to do a cruffle. So I'm going to do 2 or 3 little rolls right here. Then I'm going to pinch, move it to the other side, 2 or 3 rolls. And I'm not keeping it too tight, as you can see. Then bring it together. As a way to prevent fraying, I'm going to flip it down so our curls are going in and they're facing down. And then I'm just going to go on every little pipe cleaner and add my little cruffle. And by the way, if you want to paint the yardstick, you can definitely paint it. I'm not going to paint it because I'm still going to put more things on there, and I know it's going to be nice and full. And make sure you push it down nice and flat. The tighter you can get your ruffle in the pipe cleaner, the poofier it'll get. Once again, I'm going to flip it upside down. And this one, on the single one, I'm going to put going up and down, or if you're looking at it this way, horizontally. Then push it down. Give it 2 twists here. I know you're still able to see the yardstick, but don't worry, we're still going to put a lot more stuff on there, and we're going to cover it, and it's going to look absolutely beautiful. I'm all done with the blue. Now we're going to give it a huge contrast by adding some white. I'm going to be using this white Deco mesh from Joann's. It does have a little fuzzy on it, but that's okay. We're just going to be making curls with it. And I'm going to be making these curls 10 inches long. I'm going to be cutting 16 of these 10-inch strips because we're going to be making 2 curls per each section. Next, I'm going to grab this ribbon from Christmas, or sometimes you can find it around Valentine's. And this one's kind of flimsy. It's really, there's no wire on it, but we are going to make it work. It's going to give us a little bit of a red pop. And I'm going to cut it into 10-inch strips also. Next, I got my gorgeous patriotic ribbon, and this one has gold little stars with red and white, of course. And I'm going to cut this one into 12-inch strips. Absolutely gorgeous ribbon. And I'm just going to go to all the corners and make little dovetails. Quickest way to do that is just to fold it in half and then fold the ends in half and then do that. If you have sharp enough scissors, this works really nicely and it goes really quick. Now let's make our little bundles to attach to the swag. I'm going to start by making curls, and I'm just kind of going very loose here. And I'm going to crisscross them. Then I'm going to grab the red and put it just right on top. And our main ribbon, same thing, we're going to put it crisscross on here. And then we're going to squeeze in the middle and attach it. 2 good twists, keeping it nice and tight. I'm going to make it look pretty later on. Right now, I'm just going to continue making our little bundles of 2 of these curls. And if that gets in your way, just clip it, make the second one. We don't need to make this harder on us, right, crafters? Next, I got my red ribbon here and 2 of these gorgeous patriotic ribbons. So pretty. And gather in the middle. Going to put on this next one. And I'm going to do that throughout the whole swag. I'm only 3 bundles in, and look how gorgeous and fluffy it's looking. And it's already filled in without me even playing with it and making it prettier. So now I'm just going to continue working my way down. Next thing I'm going to do is go around to every little bundle and make sure it's nice and tight. Do a few twists, and then I'm going to cut it off about 1 inch to the center of our bundle. Then I'm just going to grab that, bend it in half, and then bend it back, and it's nice and clean. In the middle of each bundle, I'm going to put a little star. I kind of laid it out how I'm going to have it. I'm going to have the blue ones on the ends, then the red ones in the middle, and then the white ones are going to go on the ones that are single. I decided to put this little flag. I know on camera this blue is really bright, but it really is not, and it goes well with this deco mesh. It's just on camera it really lights up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it off this little thing, and I got this flag at the Dollar Tree, and I believe it had this flag and then it said USA or something like that. If you're going to put this somewhere outside, make sure you put Mod Podge all over the flag. These stars that I'm putting in the center of each bundle are from the Dollar Tree, and they're just called foam scatters. Grabbing any pipe cleaner, I'm grabbing a piece of ribbon, hot glue at the bottom, hot glue over, grabbing my piece of ribbon and just putting it straight over, and that kind of seals it in and attaches it real well to our flag over here. While this cools, I'm going to continue cutting off the pipe cleaners and then putting stars in the center. Some hot glue right there, and we're going to put that in the center. When you put it in the center, hold it in place, and then when I'm done doing all of that, I'm going to start making our ribbon really pretty and bubble it up a little bit, maybe move my curls where I want them to be. Once the hot glue cools, the stars should be fine, and in case you're wondering, I do use Gorilla hot glue. You can also take some of the stars and put them maybe on the deco mesh right here all around if you wanted, but I feel like my ribbon is very busy, so it's enough. Now I'm going to go to the center where I have 2 of them, and this is the one with the red stars. I'm kind of going to push it towards the sides because I do want the stars to show. And I'm just attaching the flag to the back of the stir stick, and I'm putting it above these 2 because remember these are hot glued on there. And I'm just going to give it a few twists here and then move the pipe cleaners to the side so they're not sticking out, and then just adjust it. And now I'm going to make all my last adjustments here. Here are the supplies we're going to need for this wreath. This 10-inch deco mesh that is 30 feet, same thing as 10 yards. The reason I'm doing the method that I'm using is because I really wanted to use this deco mesh roll, but do you see how foiled it is? It has this blue foil turning into silver and red. When you have deco mesh that is so foiled, when you cut it even with a heating tool, the foiled little pieces, they kind of slip out of the deco mesh roll, and then you have double fraying. I always like to look for a method that is continuous use with this type of deco mesh. The patriotic sign that I'm going to be using, pipe cleaners. For the ribbon, I'm going to start off with this 2.5-inch wired patriotic ribbon. Then I'm going to use some mesh ribbon, and this one has little sparkles on it. I thought that would work very nice with our deco mesh and also our sign, but because I didn't want too much sparkle, I'm going to incorporate this white ribbon and using it on every other bundle. This one I get at Costco in a roll that's 50 yards for a wreath base. I'm going to be using a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree. The first thing I'm going to do is, of course, attach the pipe cleaners. You're going to need 18 of these. Plus, if you have a sign, it depends on how big your sign is, you're going to need anywhere from 2 to 4. This wreath form consists of 6 sections. In each section, we're going to have 3 pipe cleaners. We're just going to make it easy on ourselves. On row 1 and 2, I'm going to attach 1 pipe cleaner, give it 2 twists, and I'm folding it towards the inside of the wreath form, just like this. Then I'm going to take the next 2 and I'm going to attach them to row 3 and 4. 2 twists. Same thing on the second one. And as you can see, I'm facing these pipe cleaners towards the outside. All 6 sections of your wreath form should look something like this. When you're done attaching your pipe cleaners, your wreath form should look something like this. 6 pipe cleaners on the inside row and 12 on the outside. Before we start attaching our deco mesh, let's go over what we're going to do. I always start from the inside, so if we're starting with this pipe cleaner, we are going to make 10-inch loops going all the way around until we come back to where we started. Now here comes the layered part. We're going to undo our pipe cleaner, attach the deco mesh where we started, and instead of going flat to the outside, what we're going to do is we're going to make 10-inch loops once again on the inside row. We're going to have double the deco mesh. Now after I'm done with my second circle and I come back to where I started originally, that is when I'm going to go flat to the next pipe cleaner, and here I'm going to once again make 10-inch loops going all the way around. If you're afraid maybe you were making bigger loops on here or something and you may not have enough, doing 9-inch loops on the outside is just fine, because look at the space of the pipe cleaners on the inside row and the space on the pipe cleaners on the outside row. So you definitely can make your poofs a little smaller on the outside row. Same thing as on the inside row, we are going to do this twice. So we're going to go around once, get back to where we started, and then go again. This once again is going to give us that extra layer and that fullness. To get started, I'm going to go in about 2 to 3 inches. Collect my deco mesh. When I have my tail, I'm going to attach it first to the pipe cleaner. Grabbing a zip tie, I'm going to put it underneath row 2 and attach that tail in place. I'm going to go off of our connection about 1 inch. Cut off the tail. Now this ending tail is straightened out and secured in place. Before we get started on the poofs, there are 2 important things to remember. Our deco mesh roll needs to be rolling onto the table. And number 2, we are going to keep this all together. We're not going to be making poofs like this. We are going to keep it nice and tight. Measure our 10 inches. Then we're bringing it in and tying it to the next pipe cleaner, because when we're going to be making the second row, we're going to untie it and connect it, because on top of this, we still have ribbon. So I don't want it to get too poofy. Measuring my 10 inches. I'm done going all the way around, and here is where we started. Now I'm going to push this deco mesh aside because I want the blue, red to alternate. So I'm going to measure my 10 inches, go to my next pipe cleaner, open it up, put my deco mesh in there, and now I'm going to give it 2 nice twists. And now my pipe cleaners are going to be facing up so I can find them a little later when we need them. Next 10 inches. Undo my pipe cleaner, put it right inside and next to the other one. And now we're going to secure it, 2 nice tight twists. And I'm going to do that going all the way around. I'm done going around with my second layer for the inside row, and look how poofy this is. You can see that I have 2 in each section, and it's already starting to fill up beautifully. Now we're going to go to the outside row where I finished my inside row. I'm going to go nice and flat to the outside row. I'm going to give it one twist. And now I'm going to start making 10-inch loops going all the way around. And as I said before, you can definitely do 9 inches if that's what you desire. I'm on the last loop on the outside row. Now I'm going to layer on that second row, but we're not really layering it on. We're putting it next to our first one because it's going to be easier to open it up. I am on my last loop, measuring off 12 inches. Let's open this back up, put our tail in, close it back up, and now we're going to push the tail between rows 3 and 4 towards the back because it's the best way to do it, the best way to see it. Grabbing another zip tie, I'm going to put the zip tie underneath row 3. I always count my rows from the inside out. There's my tail, about 1 inch from the connection. I'm going to cut this off, but before I do you see what I mean? That the foil actually slips out of the Deco mesh, and literally I just cut this a few seconds ago. That is why when I'm working with really foiled Deco mesh, it's beautiful. But definitely choose a method that is continuous. Now that our Deco mesh is all attached, we're going to open up our loops. Working inside out, I'm going to open every poof. The way I do it is I'll grab the whole poof in hand and I'll start on one side and I kind of feed it through. Next one, I have red and I'm going to have blue because I did put it side by side. So here's my next one. I got the beginning and I'm feeding it through. Anything that's stuck on itself, it's going to open that up and it's going to poof it out. And I'm not sure if this method was done. I mean, I feel like at this point, any possible method has been done by somebody. I'm not sure. So on this channel, I'm going to call it the layered method because we're kind of layering on our Deco mesh. This is so super affordable. If you can get some 10-inch Deco mesh on sale wherever you would buy it, this would be very economical. And especially for this, I would think that foil Deco mesh would work really nicely because the foil hides any imperfections. But look how economical this is. Yes, the foiled Deco mesh might be more expensive sometimes, but if you're using only one roll, I think it's worth it. Everything is poofed out and just look at the fullness of this wreath base. And that is using just one roll of foiled 10-inch Deco mesh. Before we get started on the ribbon, I'm going to show you why we're going to do 16 ribbon bundles instead of 18 ribbon bundles. This is a elongated sign, so on top right here, it's just simply going to cover it. And at the bottom here, same thing. So what I'm going to do is on the inside row of my wreath, I'm going to put 2 ribbon bundles, skip one, and then put 2 more and skip. So that way we only need 16 because, as I said, it's just going to cover it. Starting with my 2.5-inch beautiful star ribbon, I'm going to do 16 pieces at 12 inches each. Measuring my 12 inches, I'm going to zigzag until I get 16 pieces. I zigzagged my 16 strips, and now all I'm going to do is fold the ends in half and cut a little triangle. Some people like to cut a little deeper, some people like to cut a little higher. That's okay, whatever you feel like is just fine. As we're making our dovetails, we're also cutting our ribbon, and I love that. Now I'm going to just go to the other side and do the other side. Since I'm only making 16 bundles and I'm going to be using a combo of this one and this one as my second ribbon, I'm going to need only 8 of each. I'm going to do the same thing, 12 inches. The ribbon is all cut up. I have 16 of the 2.5, 8 and 8 of these. Let's do the inside row. One of these, we're going to fold in half to find our center, open it back up, and just squeeze it together. Attach it to our pipe cleaner, and then I'm going to twist until I'm about 1 inch from the connection. If you are going to attach something, you can definitely keep it. I'm not going to do that, so I'm just going to twist a little bit, cut off the excess, fold the pipe cleaner in half and then fold it back behind our ribbon. For our next one, we are going to do the star one and the white one. A little fold to find the center, squeeze it together, put it on the next one. After this one, we're going to skip one, go to the next one. I have my 4 on the inside row, and now moving to the outside row. I'm just going to alternate between the sparkly and the white as my second ribbon. All the ribbon bundles are on. Next, I'm going to attach the sign. Different wreath makers use different methods to attach the sign to the wreath. I like just using pipe cleaners and some scrap pieces of felt that I cut into little rectangles. I got my 4 pipe cleaners. I'm going to fold them in half and then make a little flat surface in the middle. Then remove the jute cord. I usually don't throw it away. I like to actually use it to hang the wreath. Since a wreath is round, just imagine a circle right here, and that is where you're going to attach your actual pipe cleaner. After I marked it, I realized that this is not going to be centered. The top had a lot of space and the bottom did not, so I just moved my little markings up. Hot glue, then our pipe cleaner, then more hot glue on top and the bottom, and then we're going to take our little piece of felt, put it right over. The reason I do this is basically the felt kind of melts together our pipe cleaner and the back of our sign, and it's a really good hold. Because our ribbon bundles are not excessive, fold the ribbon that I have from the center so that we can have it a little fuller. We can always face it towards the center if we need it, but right now we know where our sign is going. See where I want my sign to go? Let's flip. At first, I'm going to attach with just 1 or 2 twists. I like where my sign is sitting. Now I'm going to go back, twist a little more. Remember the jute cord we removed from the sign? I'm going to grab it, wrap it around any row you want, depending on how high you need this to be. Make a few knots, and you are ready to hang this wreath. At this time, you can also cover the back if you would like to do that. Now we come to my favorite part, and that's opening all of these up. And I like to open them like a flower, curl them, and I'm going to do that throughout the whole wreath. I love the fact that you can see the ribbon, you can see the deco mesh. It's not too much. I think this wreath really turned out beautifully. For today's wreath, I'm going to be using a 10-inch blue deco mesh roll, and I'm going to be using 2 of these poly pro mesh ribbon. It's nice and foiled. It's beautiful thick ribbon, and of course it's 10 inches by 10 yards. Also, I'm going to use a Dollar Tree wreath form. This one is 14 inches. Then we're going to need 18 pipe cleaners for the wreath, and then 2 more pipe cleaners to attach the centerpiece. We're also going to be using this mesh ribbon that I am absolutely obsessed with and have been ever since Dollar Tree came out with it. It comes in a few different colors, but it's just so pretty, and it does, I know it kind of looks like a spider kind of thing, but you know what? It just adds an elegant touch, especially these white ones. So I tell my family every time you go to Dollar Tree, if you see this, get me a few rolls. For our centerpiece, we're going to be using this super sweet little gnome that I got at the Dollar Tree, and all I did to it was give it a layer of Mod Podge, and I was not stingy with it. I really just gave it a nice thick layer of Mod Podge, let it dry overnight, and I also covered all the edges just in case, because I mean this is from the Dollar Tree, and I was afraid that it would maybe like break away over here like it did on this side. So I wanted to make sure that it's nice and solid, all the sides are sealed, and all this gnome will need is 2 pipe cleaners in the back, and we'll attach it to the wreath. Next, I'm going to put the pipe cleaners on, and we're going to need 18. This wreath form has 6 sections. In each section, we're going to put 3 pipe cleaners. This is very simple. I do this for all my wreaths. And this time I'm actually going to use 2 of these. I'm going to do the first and second row. And here I'm going to just give it a nice twist. You don't need to do too many twists, because don't forget we're going to put more stuff on there. We're going to be twisting it. And then I'm going to fold this one in on the first 2 rows. Next, I'm going to use row 3 and 4. And then here I'm going to do 2 of these pipe cleaners because it's a wider area. And here we go. And just 1 twist. And this one we're going to fold out. Let's remove this. I'm going to continue doing this all the way around for a total of 18 of these pipe cleaners being attached. If you are going to have a wreath that's a little bit on the loose side, you can definitely grab your hot glue gun and just give a dollop of hot glue as you're putting this on. Some people just put a little bit of hot glue, then they put the pipe cleaner on there, or just put the pipe cleaner on and then give it a dot of hot glue. I don't do it because my wreaths are usually on the fuller side, and when it's this compact with 2 of these and we're doing the ruffle method, they're going to be holding each other up. All the pipe cleaners that are on row 1 and 2, we're going to face them in. This is just easier to find them as we're working. And then all the pipe cleaners on the outside 2 rows, row 3 and 4, we're going to just face them out. I'm going to get started by cutting our blue Deco mesh. But before I do, I wanted to mention that in the description box below, I will give you a list of all my supplies and where I got them. For this part, you can either use a rotary cutter or a heat tool. I don't recommend using scissors just because, especially for Deco mesh like this, it's a little too rough. We are just going to do 10-inch little strips. Another thing, I do not fold them like one on top of another. I don't do that anymore because I find that when you're taking them apart as you're using them, you have a chance of fraying. So I just leave them just the way they are, put them on the side very gently, and continue cutting. You will need 18 of these 10-inch strips. I'm just showing you a laundry basket that I have, and I just very, very gently put all my rolls in here, and I'm just going to take one at a time. None of the mesh is tangled in anything, and I'm just picking them up very gently. Now it's time to get started on our gorgeous red, silver, and blue Deco mesh. We're going to be cutting this mesh into 30-inch strips. Since our board is 24, with the sides it's 25 total, I'm going to grab a ruler, and all I need is 5.5 inches because we have a half right here. So I have 5.5, and then I'm going to cut at 30 at the end right here. And if you're going to use your heat tool, just make sure you go in between the lines so it's a beautiful and smooth cut. I just tend to use this because I don't like the smell that comes off of the heat tool. I don't think it's good for you. But if you have a well-ventilated room or you can open a window somewhere, I would definitely use the heat tool. And now I'm going to be cutting 18 strips of this 30-inch mesh. I'm just rolling it gently and putting it to the side. And I'm just going to make sure that I have 18 of these 30-inch strips. Now I'm ready to make my ruffles. I have my wreath on the side ready to go. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the inner row, and then I'm going to do the outer row. You can do by section, however you want. I just find it easier to do it that way. I have my strip here, and I'm going to unfold it where it curls down onto my mat. I'm going to lay it in front of me. At the bottom here, you can just start going in. It's a habit of mine. I'm going to give it not a curl, a little fold. Just a little fold, just so it's kind of facing down. And then from there, I'm going to go in. And just holding it with my fingers, I'm just kind of accordion style making a ruffle. Try to keep to the center of your Deco mesh and go for it. When I get to the end and I have about an inch left, I'm going to take that and kind of give it a little fold and fold it into my center, just at the end right here. And there you go, you have your ruffle. If you find that you kind of went crooked, like seems like I did right here in the center, just move it over and look at this beautiful, beautiful bow. I'm going to open it up, put it inside, and I'm going to give it one twist. After you twist it, don't forget to take your pipe cleaners and just face them up because we want to be able to find them when we're going to be adding more to the center. I'm going to grab the next one and fold it and just make sure it curls onto your table. One little fold at the bottom, putting my thumbs right here, And here's the fun part. Just accordion style, making my little ruffle. Or actually big, beautiful ruffle. I'm going to just fold it and ruffle it in. Check my center, make sure everything is good. I seem to go in the middle, a little bit towards the side. There we go. Grabbing my next pipe cleaner that's in this middle row. When I put my ruffle on here, I do tend to just push it down and then give it a nice twist or two. And then I'm going to face my pipe cleaners up. Look at this, my friends. We are 2 ruffles in and it is absolutely stunning. I'm all done with the wreath. It is nice and full, but I don't play with it as in, you know, sometimes put things in place. I don't really touch it until everything is on. That means this next part. So when it comes to this gorgeous ribbon that I cannot get over, I'm going to cut it into 10-inch strips because our blue deco mesh is 10 inches also. I cut 18 strips of this ribbon and you need about a roll and a half because in one roll you could get 11 of these 10-inch strips. I'm going to grab my 10-inch little blue strip and I'm going to make a curl. Just roll it. I'm going to make a little tube. I'm going to grab the tube, grab my white ribbon, and I'm going to put that right there in the center of our bundle. Let's do another one. I'm going to roll my blue deco mesh. Not too tight, doesn't need to be too tight. Then I put my mesh ribbon right on top. Let's go to the next section. Going to put it right in the center here. Make it nice and tight, 2 good twists, and keep on twisting. And you can do one of 2 things. You can either twist it and send the pipe cleaners back, or that you know it's not going to show. This is really fluffy, so I know it's not going to show. I'm just going to grab my pipe cleaner and about 1 inch in, I'm going to give it a little snap with my wire cutters here. I'm going to bend this in half and then bend this back kind of. And I don't have to worry, I don't have to shuffle through things and, you know, play with my pipe cleaners there. It's all set and it's full. And I'm just going to continue doing this to all 18 bundles. All right, my sweet friends, look at this gorgeous big wreath. It is massive. It is fluffy, it's beautiful. The white is absolutely stunning in here. If you're not able to find this mesh ribbon, you can use any Dollar Tree white ribbon. That's about 1.5 to 2 inches. Here is a grosgrain one from the Dollar Tree. And here is the polka dot one. You can definitely use those. And the reason I say the thicker ones is because you do want a little bit of volume. The reason white is important is because of my little gnome that's going to go in the center. It has the white beard and everything, and it's just going to balance everything out. Speaking about the gnome, let's put some pipe cleaners on the back. Since I have my grosgrain ribbon over here, I'm just going to cut 2 pieces. Grabbing my pipe cleaner, finding the middle, and then with my 2 fingers right here, I'm going to make a little, about 1.5 inches width. And let's just put that right there. A little bit more hot glue on top. Then I'm going to grab my ribbon and just place over it. Because this gnome is a little bit on the tall side, I decided to put the other pipe cleaner a little bit higher, so it kind of balances nicely on the wreath. And I'm just twisting the pipe cleaners to the first row right here. And I'm kind of doing it lightly because I kind of go back and forth until I like where my centerpiece is centered. And then when I like where it's centered, I'm just going to really lock in the pipe cleaners in the back and make them tight. Well, my friends, I hung my wreath up and I was like, we are missing something. The blue is pretty, everything's pretty, but I feel like I need to outline the blue right here and on the little feet. I'm grabbing a Sharpie white paint marker and I'm just going to go right around and just trace it. Just a little bit, kind of stitching. It's just going to give it not even stitching, kind of just around. I want it to have like this kind of country feel. And I'm going to do the same thing to the hat. I also decided, since it's kind of stitched all the way around, I'm going to go right along the tip right here and do the same stitching action. Apparently I can't stop because I want to do the star, but the star I'm just going to go all the way around the edges right here and do the star. And I'm going to go around here, and on the red I'm just going to do a solid color, no stitching on the red. All right, now it's ready to go in my front door. For this red, white, and blue wreath, I'm going to be using the Nadia method, and I'm calling it that because I don't know what else to call it. And I am going to be using 6 rolls of the Deco mesh. What I recommend is when you're cutting these up, to cut up 1.5 roll of each color. Here's the reason why. Each one of the rolls is 5 yards. We are going to be making strips of 12 inches, and that'll give us 15 bows per roll. The thing is, in my methods, I use either 11. When I do solid color, I use 11 per section. In today's video, I will be using 12 per section, which means 3 extra loops or bows are going to be extra. That is why I'm telling you just to cut up 1.5 and then see how it goes, just so you have, you know, if you have some left over, you can use for another project. Besides our Deco mesh, we're going to need a 14-inch metal wreath form from the Dollar Tree, and we're also going to need some pipe cleaners. I am going to be using the white ones for the blue and the white because I don't have any blue ones. And then I am going to be using the red ones for the red. And yes, Dollar Tree does have pipe cleaners. This one's actually from the Dollar Tree from Crafter Square. Let's cut these up. So I just kind of measure 4 inches off, and you should have 3 even sections. You just don't need any more, because if you do any more, it's just going to be extra and you're going to end up cutting it off at the end. So I like to do 4 inches at a time, and it works out just fine. Here I'm just making 12-inch loops or strips, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, this is so therapeutic and fun. Who else loves doing this? Just sitting there and cutting the strips like this and then making the little bows. It is so relaxing to me, honestly. Now for the fun part, I'm grabbing my strip and I'm going to overlap it 1 inch. You don't want to do less than that because you run a risk of your little bow going loose. We're holding it at the top, and from the bottom, we're just walking it straight in. We overlapped it on this side, which means this is the bottom of my bow. From the top, I'm putting my little pipe cleaner and twisting it at the bottom. Everything's contained. All my little loose ends are inside or underneath. On top, it's perfect and nothing is going to fray. Let's do a red one. I'm overlapping it 1 inch, setting it down, and walking straight up from the bottom while holding on top. This is my smooth end. So I'm starting on my smooth end, bringing my pipe cleaner to the back where we brought the 2 sides together. And from the top, we have a beautiful bow. From the bottom, we have our frayed ends. In the inside, we have our fraying, but not at the top. And it's not going to fray, and it's going to look beautiful. One more time. I'm overlapping 1 inch, going straight down, holding on top, walking from bottom up, turning it around. This is my smooth end, grabbing my pipe cleaner, wrapping it around to the back. This is where we overlapped it, giving 2 twists. And then here we go. Our fraying is hidden right there at the bottom. And on the inside from the top, there's no fraying, nothing, and it's not going to go anywhere. It's nice and tight, sealed in the center. And here's a blue and a red. And I'm just going to continue doing this until I'm done with doing 1.5 rolls each. Okay. Now it's time to fill in the wreath. I will be using rows 2 and 3. For this particular wreath, because we have 3 colors, I will be putting 6 and 6 just because I want to make sure that my colors are really nice and even. So I'm going to put 2 of each color in each one, which means I need 72 of these bows, 24 of each color. I always say red, white, and blue, so not to lose count, that's why I set it up like this. And I'll just do red, white, and blue, red, white, and blue. And I'm zigzagging them. So line 3, line 2, line 3, line 2, line 3, line 2. Here I'm done with one section. Look how full it looks. And it looks really messy here, but I always fix that at the end. I'll show you how I do that. I basically just twist it and then either twist it around my little row right here. See how nice and clean that is versus all of this. But I will go back and I'll do that to all of them. And yeah, it just looks good. It looks professional, especially if you're going to do one of these to sell. You definitely want to make sure that it's nice and clean and that all the backs of these pipe cleaners are not going to scratch the doors or walls of the people you are gifting the wreath to. So we finished, our last one was on row 2. I'm going to continue with my next one on top here on row 3. So red, white, and blue. So I'm going to continue with the red in row 3. I always count the rows from the inside of the wreath. It's just how I always did it. Ooh, look how good it looks. All right, you guys, I think I'm just going to finish all of this up and I will be right back. I promised I'd show you how I fixed it in the back and look nice and smooth. I hid all the little tips, just curling it around the rings right here, going around like that, and now it's nice and clean. And look how even this wreath turned out. If you feel like maybe, you know, for example, this one's white, that's fine, but this one's blue. I sometimes just kind of overlap it like this to hide that part and just play around, make it look really nice and however you want it. But this is a 3-color wreath and I think it turned out absolutely beautiful. Alrighty. All right, let's work on the centerpiece. I'm going to take one of these wooden stars from the Dollar Tree and I am going to cover the little hole right here. And I'm just using the lightweight spackle from the Dollar Tree. I always overfill it a little bit, as you can see, because when it dries, it shrinks. And then you have like a little scoop right where the hole used to be. So now I'm going to just let this dry and we'll come back to it. Now that it dried, I'm going to just use a sandpaper just to clean it up a little bit there. And I'm opening a new can of the Rust-Oleum chalk paint. And this is in linen white. And now it has a plastic lid instead of the metal one we were used to. This is a little thinner than Waverly chalk paint, but it's much, much cheaper and economical. So that is why a lot of the YouTubers have been using this lately. All right, to attach the star, I'm just going to be attaching it right here at these points. Don't do it from here because if you do it from here, they'll show. But from here, they'll be like hidden in the wreath itself. And I just do my little 2-finger kind of thing. So it has a flat surface to attach to. I'm just really trying to kind of center it, making sure I like where I'm putting it. So I usually tighten it really loosely at first, but at the point where I want it, meaning, you know, kind of closer to the wire. Continue playing with it, seeing how deep I want it to stay. Okay, my star is secured right here. To decorate it, I'm going to use a bow. Dollar Tree has a few bows, but the problem is the blues don't match. So I figure instead of, this one might look good, but I thought this one would look even better. Going to tighten it up in the back, flatten it out because the way it is. Let me grab my brush. See, that sparkle stuff is, I just showed you that little bow and it's everywhere. Get some hot glue on there, right there. For more security, I'm just giving just a dollop of hot glue here and there so it holds where I want it to. Going to grab a vase filler from the Dollar Tree, a little X-Acto knife, and the way I like doing it is I go from each corner on the inside. I wanted to show you that I just took 1/3 off. I did not cut it in half just because it's not going on a flat surface. It's going to kind of be in the air, and I wanted to make sure that the edges right here were not cut off. A beautiful dollop of hot glue straight in the center. Oh my goodness, does this not look gorgeous? The first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my wall hanging from the Dollar Tree, and since I didn't know which wording I was going to go with, I took my Mod Podge and just Mod Podged all 3 of them. The reason I do this is that Dollar Tree sparkle gets on everything, gets on your hands, whatever you're working with. So I always like to tame it down and just put Mod Podge over it, let it dry. Not much, just a little bit, just enough for it to stay in place. These little square signs are not that big, and I also wanted something. I wanted a nice solid color around my little 4th of July sign so that it stands out against the Deco mesh in the back. Next, I grabbed my white grosgrain ribbon that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm cutting it into 3-inch strips. Now I'm just singeing all the ribbon edges to make sure there's no fraying when my wreath is going to be hanging, especially that this wreath is going to be outside. The way I singe my edges is I like to use a little tea light. I just run my ribbon next to the flame really, really quickly back and forth, and I feel like I have more control than using a lighter, but there's nothing wrong if you are used to using a lighter and are very good at it. So, there's many ways to do the same thing. Now I'm just grabbing my little 3-inch ribbons and I'm going to be folding them in a V and just putting a little dot of glue at the bottom. And as you can see, both of my fingers on the hand that I'm holding the little V together do have the rubber protectants on them, and I do get those at the Dollar Tree. They come 3 in a pack. Now it's time to attach my little ribbon V's to the back of my 4th of July sign. I hot glued the little V's about 1/2 inch from the edge of the sign, and I used 5 of the little V's on each side. So basically I made 20 of the little V's. In order to attach my sign to the wreath, I just grabbed 2 chenille wires and hot glued them to the back of my little sign. To make the wreath itself, I will be using 6 rolls of Deco mesh from the Dollar Tree, a 14-inch metal frame, and also zip ties. I will be using these little zip ties for this project, but you can also get zip ties on Amazon or at the Dollar Tree. It really doesn't matter, but I would say a minimum of a 4-inch zip tie is needed to do this. For this wreath, we're going to start by layering the mesh. I'm going to put the red on top of it. I'm going to layer the white and then the blue. And with the Deco mesh right on top of each other, I'm bringing it together at the end, and I'm going to zip tie it to the 2nd and 3rd ring together, nice and tight. And the way I like to do it is I like to kind of put it on the intersection so that it holds in place really, really nice, meaning from one side of that divider to the other side. To do my loops, I love using this board from the Dollar Tree. And so what I do is I measure about 8 inches right there. And then I just bring it together and I make a little loop. When I bring it together, I take my little zip tie and then I just tie it together. In this wreath, I did 6 of these loops per each section of my wreath. And I still had a lot of ribbon left over where I could have done 7. My wreath did turn out nice and full, but I'm just saying that if you guys want to, you could definitely do 7 loops if you keep them at about 8 inches. Now I'm just taking the leftover tail and making sure it's nice and secure and nothing is sticking out or poking out. I actually gave a few zip ties in that area, and whoop, there's my helper. Here I'm just going around the wreath and really making sure that all my zip ties are nice and tight. And then afterwards, I'm just grabbing my wire cutters and going all around and just cutting off all the tails from the zip ties. Here's my favorite part. That's where we get to take the Deco mesh and open it up. So what I did is I would just take the blue one, put it on the left, and then in the next loop I'll put the blue one on the right, and I just kind of mix them up. Red would go to the left, the red would go to the right, the white would be somewhere here and there, and you just do this throughout the whole wreath. This is so much fun. It is so satisfactory. I don't know why. I absolutely love this part of making this wreath. Now we're ready to grab the sign and attach it to the wreath. I'm just going to place it how I want it on the wreath, flip the wreath over, and then attach it to the second or the first ring of the wreath. Mine attached to the second one, so I was kind of happy. I knew it was nice and secured, and I absolutely love how this wreath turned out. I just adjusted the sign in the front a little bit, and bam, you guys, it's all done. How easy and beautiful is this wreath? Can you guys guess what this is? Well, it's actually a wall hanging from Michael's, and usually it has some sort of greenery on it, and this particular one had succulents on it. So what I decided to do is to do my own wall hanging. I had 3 of these Deco mesh rolls left over from the 4th of July. So what I decided to do is grab my Deco mesh, and I'm going to be making loops, pulling them through the squares in this background. There are points on this background on one side, so where there are points, that's gonna be my front, and as you see, my back is smooth. So first thing you see me doing here is I'm pulling the tail through, and I'm going to zip tie it to my little background. The important thing to remember here is I will be starting and ending always in the back so that the loops are going to be going towards the front of the background. Every few loops, I use the zip tie to secure the loops in place just to make sure that nothing falls out of place, and if it does, you don't have to go too far. Here I'm just grabbing my loops and I'm opening them up to see how full my project is going to be and if I needed to do it in every single little square. And I came to the conclusion that yes, it needed to be every single square, so I just continued back and forth on my background until I was all done with all the Deco mesh that I had on hand. When I was done with all my Deco mesh, I had 2.5 rows left over, so I just grabbed my wire cutters and I just snipped the leftover background off. When I choose the decoration for my pieces, I consider the overall picture. My Deco mesh is quite busy with the red, white, and blue, so I knew I needed something simple, but also something to bring everything together. So I started with my favorite ribbon, which is the cross grain ribbon that I got at the Dollar Tree. And I'm just doing a simple bow and bringing it together. And what I decided for this project is I'm going to do 3 bows and then just layer them one on top of the other. To bring everything together, I'm using this checkered red and white ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree on Valentine's. Now I have the red and the white, and it's not that busy, but it is going to complete the project really simply and beautifully. And for my third bow, once again, I am using the white cross grain ribbon, and this one is 5/8 of an inch. And I'm just going to hot glue it right on top of the red checkered one. I decided to attach the bow straight onto one of my loops where my bow looked really nice. And with the help of my handy dandy finger protectors, I just hot glued the bow onto my mesh. Using lots and lots of hot glue on the back of my carnation, I'm just hot gluing it to the center of my bow. Now I'm just cutting the edges of my bow tails, and I'm all done. To get started, I'm grabbing my 14-inch wreath form that I got at the Dollar Tree, and very careful with wire cutters. I'm going to cut off that 4th ring. That's the last ring on the outside, and I'm cutting as close as I can to the 3rd ring so that the metal part that's holding all the rings together is not poking out and it's not going to scratch your doors. But as always, you guys, don't throw anything away. Save that 4th ring for a future project. Now it's time to work on the bottom sign. I cut off the jute cord that was meant to hang the sign. Then I got some painter's tape and put it right underneath the America sign. Now this is an extra step and you really don't have to do this, but the little stars did have some glitter on them, so I did sand them off a little bit. And now I'm just going to do 2 coats of white acrylic paint. I just wanted a clean white background, so when I put the ribbon on top of it, it looks nice and clean. I'll be using this burlap ribbon with lace for the front of it, and I'm just cutting off enough for the length of the sign plus an inch on both sides so we can hot glue it to the back of the sign. Because of the dome design of the metal wreath, only the middle ring is actually going to be touching my sign. So I decided to attach it using an old-fashioned ribbon method. I just grabbed some scrap ribbon and cut out 6 pieces. 2 pieces are going to go on top and 1 in the bottom center of the sign. Because Deco mesh is going to be in the way later, I decided to do this step now. And I'm just laying the wreath over my sign and seeing where my pieces of ribbon are going to go. So then at the end, I'm going to get the last 3 pieces of ribbon and just hot glue them over these pieces of ribbon. And this is going to give it a lot more security than just hot gluing the wreath straight to my sign. I'm going to be using 3 rolls of this Deco mesh that I got at the Dollar Tree. And unfortunately, one of these Deco meshes, or actually 2 of them, was really loose. And so I had to be really careful as to how I use it. But the good thing is the method that I will be using today, it's okay if you use ribbon that's a little loose because this method is going to hide that. The first thing I did was open up my rolls of Deco mesh and layered one on top of the other. Because this was a 3-color ribbon, I layered them where I had blue on the bottom, then red on the bottom, and then blue on the bottom again. And that way it's more uniform as you go along. Now I'm just bringing all 3 layers together, squeezing it in the middle and making a little tail. And I'm going to use zip ties for this wreath, and I'm just going to zip tie that tail onto the middle ring. Now we are just going to make loops
And we're gonna make sure that it loops on the outside nice and smooth. And I like my loops to be about 6 inches, and this board from the Dollar Tree, this green one that I'm using, is actually 6 by 8, so it's perfect. And while I'm working, I'm just going to just quickly use it when I feel like my loop isn't that accurate. But I mean, really, it doesn't have to be. You can do this by eye, but I just like that approximate length to be pretty even. And as you can see, as I'm going along, I'm using my zip ties to make the loops. For this project, I will have 6 poofs or 6 loops per section. Now I'm grabbing the dullest scissors that I have in my craft room, and I'm cutting off the little tail. To make sure that my Deco mesh tail does not stick out, I'm just tucking it underneath that middle ring and then grabbing another zip tie and securing it in place. After making sure that all my zip ties are nice and tight on the wreath, I'm just grabbing wire cutters and cutting off all the extra tails. Now it's time to secure my metal wreath to the actual sign. I'm just dabbing some hot glue right on top of the little ribbons that are tied to my sign and putting that second piece over it. This way, it's a nice seal. To complete my wreath, I'm grabbing 3 large stars from the foam scatter that I got at the Dollar Tree, and I'm just cutting down the back a little bit to make sure that it hot glues nicely. And once again, be really careful doing this and just cut each corner of the star working from the outside in.
I hope you enjoyed this video and hopefully got inspired by a wreath or two. In the comments below, please let me know which wreath was your favorite. Thank you so much for spending the time with me today, and I will see you, or we will see you, in our next video. Bye guys. Bye.